Hey guys, before we get started, I just wanted to mention that May 22nd, Stone Tavern, Kent, I'm going to play with a few great bands. I'm going to be playing Third Class songs solo, and one of the bands that got this show together is called Coal Fired Bicycle. They will also be featured the next day, May 23rd, at what's referenced in the podcast as the Speaking of Music launch show. Also with Third Class and a lot of other great bands. I want to pack everybody into this podcast, but I don't think I can. But I just wanted you to hear somebody I haven't played yet. Coal Fired Bicycle, Columbus, Ohio. And then we'll get into the show. Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you about a guy named Jim Martin. You might know him as Jimmy Fro. He runs a podcast called the Jimmy Fro Indie Music Show. My band Third Class has been a guest 3 times on the show. It's a great podcast, and it's coming up on its 100th episode. And then I want to say that Jimmy is also going to become co-host of a new show called Speaking of Music. Now, Jimmy Fro, aside from hosting these couple shows and doing lots of other cool things, is the inspiration, one of the inspirations for me starting my own podcast. He had the confidence to start a podcast up in Northeast Ohio, and he in turn passed that confidence to me. Thank you, Jimmy. Furthermore, I'm proud to announce that a compilation that my band put out called Seattle Stars is going to now include his version of the song Seattle Stars. This compilation was put out in late 2014 as a precursor to our album Hymns from Some Small Town. And what it features is our song Seattle Stars performed by Third Class.
If I see you in Seattle and I see you again.
And then 9 other artists performing covers or remixes of the song. These artists are Sleep Projections,
We are young, all of it stars. We are back to reading hard.
The Zoo,
I will have you in a jiffy. Teach you to string guitar.
Sam Goodwill,
I will have you in a jiffy. Teach you to string guitar.
Dave Nolden,
We are nameless and we're fine.
Bitter Alms, Icarus Flu, Summer Camp Steve,
We are young, colorless dogs. We are factory list cars. We are nameless and we're fine. We are famous on a page.
Human Petting Zoo,
I will have you in a jiffy. Teach you to string guitar. When you're old enough with ID, take you out to the bar.
Blew Through Branches,
We are young, colorless dogs. We are factory-less cogs.
and now, also included as a bonus track, Jim Martin's version of Seattle Stars.
I will have you in a jiffy and teach you to string
are young, colorless dogs. We are factoryless cogs. We are nameless and we're fine. We are famous in our minds. And all your words stick to me. It's cold in this neck of Ohio tonight, and the style is right for a sad winter song. I feel lost like a speck in a pile out of sight, and though I try with all might, I just don't feel that strong. As we walk through a field trekking on snowy dirt, my eyes start to hurt trying to see a smile. And we talk about fears making our story short. You are scared to get shot, your bravery goes for miles. And there's more miles to go as we walk the train tracks. I think we lost the rain back in the woods we just hiked. And the store signs can glow as you walk sidewalk cracks. I think we lost the town back trading street lamps for kites. The nursery and all of the trees crossed over the dark, and some old parking lots hold my whimpering thoughts. And I'm on the next train, you and me, can't you see what this means? In the light of a torch, realize nothing is forced, nothing is forced.
I just feel like we're gonna watch popcorn and watch Star Wars movies.
Yeah. It's like, I guess it's a ploy to get things more casual, I think. All right. Okay, guys. This is Lee. This is Nursery. This is my friend Jimmy Martin, Jimmy Fro, aka a bunch of other stuff.
Great.
But you want to tell? Do you want to like tell these people who you are and what you do? You don't even have to. Jeremy. Sorry, you're fine. You're fine.
Come here. I know you don't want to.
Sorry
You have
about
to do
that.
with me.
Sorry about that.
I know that more fun.
Good. Do you want to tell these people what you do? You don't even have to do it from a media standpoint if you don't want to. Just tell them what you think's interesting or what's useful.
Wow. I mean, like just a quick synopsis of like where I come from musically, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was born and raised in Warren, Ohio, and with the exception of 3 years living in Syracuse, New York, I've been in Northeast Ohio my whole life. Went to Kent State Branch, went to YSU initially for to be a drum major, and then I changed my instrument to voice.
Okay.
I'm like a junior. If I was to go back, I have enough credits to be a junior. Someday I hope to finish. And I've been in and out of bands since I was 18 years old. And I'm playing in bars and clubs. I've played Cedars a few times. I was in a band called Malice and Frown. We opened up for the Infidels and Ivet and Coin Monster. And, as I got into my late 30s, life started happening, and it was harder being married to go out to bars and check out bands and be in bands. So I was listening to podcasts a lot at work. I work in a factory, and I said, hey, maybe I can do this on a small scale and help other artists and have fun with it. So that's what I do now. I still write a little bit and play a little bit, but I'm a homebody.
So your main thing right now is podcasting. It's Jimmy Fro Show, which has tons of Ohio artists, let alone out-of-towners on it. And then speaking of music, is going to be kind of something that spins off from that. That's going to be even more focused on like all-time music with more
look backs, more national.
That's cool. That'll be nice. Are there any bands that you want to tell listeners to go find of your acts that used to exist? Is there anything online that you'd be like, if this is the one thing that this is how you know who I am, or this is my defining music, go Google this or go to this site? Is there any of that stuff exist now online?
Bands that I've been in?
That you've been in,
Yeah, there is a video for Psychedelic Huck by the band Malice and Frown on YouTube. Okay. And there's some videos. The band that I was in about 10 years ago called Download, we have a song we wrote called Shut Out. It's also on YouTube.
So guys, if you look up Psychedelic Huck and what was the second thing, Frown?
Download is the band and the song's called Shut Out.
Shut Out, sorry. I already started mixing the three things together. Frown Load by...
I like that.
I don't even know where that came from. But okay, so guys, go check those things out. Probably a YouTube thing, or just Google it, and just to find some, maybe I guess I'd just call it Ohio music history. It'd be good for people to hear. And is there anything you think that me personally that I missed out on? As far as I'm 31 right now. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that, if there was one thing you could like take me back in time to, not that you're that much older than me at all, but if there's one thing that you could educate me on in the music scene and be like, man, you should have seen this. Is there any venue or any show or any band that you would have been like, man, I wish you could have seen them live, or any kind of classic young stuff? Because Pete kind of has, Pete Drevere, who you mentioned from Pre-Demons, Infidels, Deadbeat Poets, oftentimes he'll shoot me a few names of things like, oh, you should have, I wish you could have seen these guys. And I usually get educated by him and Khalid about like, man, you should have seen this one band, because I was just young enough to kind of miss a few cool things that were just ending. But I'm not sure what those things were. Is there anything you would recommend, like, or you'd be like, oh, I wish you could have seen this, or any show?
I don't know if you're a heavy head or if you have a taste for some heavier music.
I tend to at least like being at the shows.
Okay.
Like, even if I don't like put the album on, because sometimes it's too heavy for me, those are sometimes my favorite experiences at shows. Yeah.
When I interviewed John Reeder from Coin Monster, we talked about the sticky floor of the Penguin Pub in Youngstown, and they used to have really big metal shows like Monolith and Coin Monster. And Monolith, they used a lot of effects pedals, so it was like just a really spacey, sludgy, low-end metal show. But it felt bigger than a small venue. Like just the way that they performed. Maybe it was a combination of that band with Coin Monster, but you felt like you were in something that was somehow heightened than your average run-of-the-mill venue or run-of-the-mill concert or show.
Okay, cool. So Penguin Pub.
Pub.
Yeah, that's cool. I know another girl who now has moved to Texas, Sarah Sapanik. She's kind of just like got her head full of history, and more so than you and I probably even do, as far as she could probably do a podcast, because she ended up doing so many journalism projects. And she's always like, remember when what's the band? I'm gonna not remember. Tub Ring, stuff like that. Like Tub Ring bands that are like heavy metal, that I think some of them had a history of opening for Mindless Self-Indulgence and things, would come through Nibingy.
Okay.
And she was kind of like in the vein of, remember this metal show at this time when this venue, it was legendary. And and I'm butchering whatever she would really say right now, but just to give you an idea, I wish she maybe I should do a phone call podcast with her just to give me
Yeah,
some
you
Ohio
should.
history, because she knows so much more than I do. And she made Keep Youngstown Weird bumper sticker. Like,
I've seen
she just
that.
made it. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
It's not even like somebody asked. Some people stop me in Boardman or Poland or Canfield, downtown Youngstown. They're like, "Where'd you get that?" Like, because you'd think like that would be somewhere like at, say, like a Phil Kidd shop or some Ohio shop, but it's just Sarah made it out of her house because she's so into Youngstown, and so I thought that was cool. But keeping in mind Ohio overall, what do you think of Ohio? Being that you only were in Syracuse for a little while, have you grown to be like, I need to get out of here? Or are you like, man, it's beautiful here, I like it? Or what's the perspective?
Wow. Well, I remember being 18 and when I moved to Syracuse, and I had no problem with leaving it. I was sad to leave my family. But I guess I do appreciate like the 4 seasons. You know, all things being relative, I think that if it was Florida or LA, I think we'd take for granted like a nice sunny day. So I like that. I like the 4 seasons. And I think a lot of my opinion of Ohio comes from like the point of contrast. I like being an inland state, so like if there's ever a hurricane or flooding, I think that I feel relatively safe compared to coastal states. I think that's kind of
That's true.
a neat thing.
The only way we're toughened up is stuff that's not too crazy. It's like we're used to like louder storms or like heavier rain, but it's not really like a tornado or a horrible thing. It was like 80s last time something huge passed through and destroyed something, I think. But I was in Seattle with a coworker at a camp, and we heard the most faintest thunder I've ever heard in my entire life. Like nothing.
Polite thunder?
No, not even notable to anyone in Ohio. And we were in the woods, and he did the thing with the soccer, or what was that? I stopped short, Seinfeld.
Okay.
You know how he said
yeah.
Serenity's now. You know how Kramer stops George's mom? He did
Yeah.
that to me when he heard it. He was like, oh, did you hear that?
Because they're not used to it.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I heard it. Let's keep walking. Who cares? You know?
Whoopee.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was kind of fun because, like you said, there's other things to face on the coast. But it was neat to know that we're toughened up in some other way where we're like, storm, who cares?
True. Yeah.
Thank you, sweet Mother Nature, for blessing Northeast Ohio. Those 2 days of sunshine every year melt the black-colored snow. And thank you, sweet Mother Nature, for April showers in May. You nurture the beautiful flowers, then freeze them to death the next day. Wearing 17 sweaters at Cufaro Field, watching the season's first pitch. Thank you, sweet Mother Nature. Thank you, you punk ass bitch. Sweet, oh my sweet Mother Nature. What did Northeast Ohio do to piss you off? Well, sweet, oh my sweet Mother Nature. There's nothing better in summer than catching the whooping cough. Thank you, sweet Mother Nature, for Arctic weather in June. You freeze us with 10 months of winter, then drowned us in many monsoons. Thanks for the snout sucks. Well, there's nothing funner than watching funnel clouds from a ditch. Thank you, sweet Mother Nature. Thank you, you punk ass bitch. Sweet, oh my sweet Mother Nature. What did Northeast Ohio do to piss you off? Well, sweet, oh my sweet Mother Nature. There's nothing better in summer than catching a whooping cough. Yeah, Ravenna Arsenal was built here because there's 6 million clouds in the sky. You can stick this weather, Mother Nature, up your ass sideways and down.
Okay, so that's cool. So you were sad to leave your family, but it's not like you were. But it was later that you actually were like, wow, I appreciate the seasons, I appreciate the atmosphere, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have like hipster moments where it's like I get down and out because Ohio's sort of slow to the table when it comes to anything artsy or pop culture. Mm-hmm. But you know, they fade pretty fast. And I think like another thing I wanted to say is like I definitely like Ohio because there's not a whole lot of 5 and 6 lane highways like Maryland or LA.
Yeah.
And parking is rarely an issue in Ohio.
No.
You know?
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a good point. No one's ever said that yet on the podcast as far as just the practicality of driving in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I had one girl say something about how people often talk in time rather than miles here, and probably lots of places in the U.S., but I had never noted that till she said it. She said they're always like, Cleveland is an hour and a half, instead of saying Cleveland is 80 miles, or however many miles.
Yeah.
I like that. I was like, that's neat. I never thought about that before. But, okay, so then we mentioned your musical past, and you recently turned in a cover of our song Seattle Stars that we're going to put on, let me plug that right now. It's going to be a bonus track on a 10-song, now 11-song compilation, Seattle Stars, on Bandcamp at thirdclass.net. Go to thirdclass.net, download. But guys, listen to it. It's awesome. And I don't know if you're catering to what I asked you for or what, but it was exactly what I wanted. I mean, I just have to say.
Really?
It was like a smoother rock than the Zoos version, but also you threw in some swing, you threw in some more. It was like, and then it was more say songwritery than Shiloh's or something.
Okay.
Yeah, Weezer, or it's not even that 90s though. It was just like well-rounded. You know, it was like the most well-rounded one by far of all of them, I'd say, because anyone else either leaned towards the folk or towards the rock, and yours kind of sat in like, we're gonna rock, but we're not gonna like blow your hair back. We're gonna, like. That's what I appreciate.
It feels like, other than, even aside from the sentiment of the lyrics, it's the feel of the song. It feels like a road trip song.
It does.
And I think that's how I expressed it.
Yeah. I've been writing so many road trip songs lately, and I don't know what to do with them.
Huh.
I don't know if like I gotta go and just record them and get them out of my system.
You should.
And do something solo or what. I don't really like doing stuff without Jack and Peppy, but like, it's like, I gotta get these out of my system.
Yeah.
I keep writing that song over and over, essentially, more versions of that. But anyways, the musical thing, speaking of songs, if you had one song and one song only to take with you to an island that you're stranded on, you could only listen to that song, what would that song be?
The one song island question.
Yes.
Wow.
And you're comfortable on the island with food. You got a cassette tape where you can play the song over and over, but you don't have to hear it over and over.
Boy, that's not tough. But I guess I feel like if I put my answer out there, I'm going to be unfair to the other songs, and their feelings might be hurt.
Right. Plus, you're
If
going to
my
end
other
up
songs are
hating that
listening.
song. Yeah,
that?
if your other songs are listening, yeah. You don't want to play favorites if other songs are listening, so don't take this too seriously. He might change his mind tomorrow. But think of it this way. You're not going to the island today, so this is only your answer if you were taking that right now.
Oh, okay.
Later down the line, you might choose one of the other songs, and their feelings won't be hurt.
That's true. You know, when I first heard the song Diary of a Madman by Ozzy Osbourne, I got the neck hair standing up thing. Mm-hmm. And I think it was just the grit of the guitar and the drums and the driving force. And to this day, when I listen to that song and the guitar solo, I still get a little bit revved up. So I guess it would probably be Over the Mountain by Ozzy Osbourne.
Nice. Wait, what was the title?
The song's called... Oh, yeah, actually... Diary of a Madman is probably second best. What I meant to say was
I see.
Over the
That
Mountain.
was your intro, and then you found Over the Mountain.
Over the Mountain's track 1 on the album Diary of a Madman. But the song Diary of a Madman is really, really good, too. It's spooky.
Gotcha. Okay, I see. So the album's Diary of a Madman, Over the Mountain's the song. That's cool. I'll have to listen. I don't know if I know the song Over the Mountain. Maybe I'd know it if I heard it. But Ozzy Osbourne's awesome. So
Yeah.
I definitely would subscribe to. And that could be versatile. It could definitely be like something that he walks that line between. Is this thing on?
Well, when he had Randy Rhoads in the band, Randy Rhoads was classically trained, and in a climate of a lot of blues-oriented music, Randy Rhoads was writing like more minor scale stuff. Mm-hmm. So there was always like an eerie element and mode to Ozzy's music, just like Sabbath. I mean, the songs didn't like have a party hardy, clap your hands, let's rock and roll type of feel.
Right.
And I've just always been drawn to a song that kind of has like a rich layer to it and sounds like there's a story behind the music.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why they're so much better than like AC/DC and stuff like that, because like AC/DC's awesome and I wouldn't want it any other way with them. Mm-hmm. Like it's like, keep writing the same song. That's what I want from you.
Yeah.
But like they have that same little bit of that little party rock, just the slightest bit, but thrown in with better chords, better like parts that are different from each other. And yeah, it's really hard to get that right. A lot of bands have not gotten that right. Kiss really didn't get it quite right. A lot of bands just don't quite get there, where you got to make it sound just a little bit more like it's not Bohemian Rhapsody, but you just got to throw in a couple like variables to just mix it up once in a while, or else it just becomes like, oh, here's another whatever party rock.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what do you think when you hear the word nursery?
Boy, I picture like pack and plays and little baby carriages and baby beds in a room.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think that's all those questions. I'm trying to think. Did I leave something out? Ohio nursery. I feel like I've missed something, but it doesn't matter. Anyways,
I like that question. Like when I've heard a couple episodes now, and you ask everybody that question.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's weird because I don't know what I'm doing with that, but it feels open-ended enough to just let it go. So, did you end up spending any time in church basements as a kid? Like
Church
as far
basements?
as nurseries and churches go, when like somebody was attending the service and you were like the kid, like being babysat by the Sunday
Not that I
school?
remember. I have no recollection.
I see that as an Ohio thing, so I always kind of, that's on my mind now because I know my brother spent time like that. The person I had somebody on yesterday named Melissa Kimple, who's from Columbiana, and she was the person who watched the kids, and she said that was like rough, like rounding up little kids while they were all anxious while their parents were in church. Yeah. Well, that's my other thing. So church, overall, what would you say your religion is then?
I was raised Catholic, and then halfway through kindergarten, my parents withdrew me because I think they thought the nun teachers were a little too hard, and they put me in the public school system at Niles. And we continued to attend Catholic churches, and I got my first communion, went to catechism. Probably when I was in elementary school and middle school, my mother's best friend, she was a pastor at a Christian church, Nazarene, I think. And she gave me a Bible for my birthday, and she started to sort of shepherd us into church. And I guess if you would ask me then, I just became more of a general Christian, which I think Christianity is like a big umbrella, and it covers Jehovah's Witnesses, it covers Catholics. I think the whole delineation in the subcategories of Christianity it's just kind of silly, because I think it works against the primary goal of like having some meaning of life and having something to worship or having someone to believe in or knowing where you're going. But with all that being said, I don't think I have a religion.
Okay. So you're saying that overall you think people would naturally arrive at that same ideal of like having something to worship if it wasn't for the structure? Is that kind of what you're saying? Or like you said, it was kind of counterintuitive to have all this. Yeah. Do you think they'd end up not really worshiping one God or one whatever, but you're saying they'd find their thing to
It might be a different thing, but I think in the meantime, I think as a race, not a race, as a people, as humans.
Sure. Yeah.
As humans, we would get along in the travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And how were the nuns hard?
I remember getting my hand slapped.
Okay.
Yeah, with a ruler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I thought
really
that's
good.
what you meant.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things did you do to get them to do that to you? It was just like getting an answer wrong and things like that,
Boy,
or was it like
I don't
you were
remember.
Or you were like a misbehaving kid?
I don't think I was misbehaving. I don't remember.
So it just happened to everyone a little bit.
Probably.
Yeah. The closest thing I had to that is I had a first grade teacher who would scream if we got the answer wrong. And she was like, "I'll come by you, and if I come right next to you, she'd like hover over your paper, and if she was like, if I see a wrong answer, I'll shriek." And she's like, "So that'll keep you guys in line to not do it wrong," I guess was the idea.
Wow.
But it was the scariest thing, man. Let alone if someone had smacked my hand.
Yeah.
Like, she was just old school as far as like first grade kids, man. And you saw everyone shake when she did. When she did it, everybody was just like, their chairs shook, and I was like, what is going? Even as a kid, I was like, what is happening? This doesn't seem to make sense. I don't know if I was coming at that from somebody who just never had it that hard as far as teachers, or if I was coming from like, that lady is just unreasonable. But did you have those thoughts with the nuns, or were you too young to?
I don't
were you just like,
recollect.
oh well, I'm here.
So you're saying you remember it being sort of like she maintained order by intimidation, loud voices and threats of.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm okay with negative reinforcement. I don't have a sunshiny like outlook on how you get people motivated, but I just thought that didn't work, But I didn't know if that was me as a kid feeling that it didn't work though. But were you more just like, hey, I don't know any better, I'm here. I don't know, were you just like, this is how nuns are, I don't know anything else? Was it like that? Or were you kind of like going home and being like, they hit my wrist, I don't like that. You know what I mean?
I must have complained enough to where they pulled me out halfway through. I must have.
That's all I mean. I'm not saying you were clueless. I'm just saying, as a kid, there were many moments where I was like, this is how it is. I'm not going to question it. And that was only one of the times I actually went home and was like, hey, this lady's weird, and there's nothing done about it. But, I don't know. I just think it's interesting because at first I thought maybe you were like a rebellious kid, but the nuns just hit everybody. You know what I mean? Like,
sounds like a book title. The nuns just hit everybody.
The nuns just hit everyone. They just slapped everyone with the ruler.
So did you go to Catholic school all through elementary?
No Catholic. This is just a regular public school.
Oh.
That's why I found that I had it kind of. It was weird to say I had it easy by going to public school, but I had it easy as far as there wasn't religion in my life much when I was a kid. This is just a first grade teacher in East Palestine. Mm-hmm. That's why I felt so weird, because there were a bunch of other people that were more nurturing style, because it was like kindergarten and first grade.
Yeah.
And she was just like, for whatever reason, man, hardened up. And I don't know. Maybe that shaped me or did something weird. I don't know.
Wow.
But so you Catholic school till what age?
6 maybe.
6. Okay. Well, then that is really young. Yeah. And then from there, did you have any other teachers or experiences that really made you be like, I don't like this person, or this changed my life for the better, or anything like that? Like going on up to middle school, high school?
Let me think. I can remember 3rd grade. I remember discovering the band Kiss, and me and my friends would draw Kiss stages on grocery bags. Mm-hmm. I don't have any traumatic memories of teachers. I remember maybe in 4th grade, the teacher asked us all, what should we do about the sanitation problem, the garbage problem, landfill problem? And I remember saying, well, why don't we just put it on the moon? And the teacher was Miss Kaler. She said, why the moon? It's like, well, because we live here on Earth, we don't live on the moon. People and garbage shouldn't be close to one another. But I was to this day, I look back and I'm thinking, why didn't she get that? I think that still makes sense. Put it on the moon.
Yeah. Maybe even when you really look at it, there's still lots of sense to be made with the idea like that, as opposed to the ocean or
That'd be a good name for a band. Yeah. Why the Moon?
Why the Moon?
But putting the letter Y instead of spell out Y.
Garbage on the Moon. And it's just Garbage, the band, playing on the moon? No, I don't know.
But I don't have any traumatic memories. I just know that by the time I was a senior in high school, I had been in 5 different school systems. So every time I started to get a clique of friends and a best friend, my mom and stepdad were moving us away. And I think it made me, one, it made me maybe sort of independent. 2, it made me kind of versatile. Mm-hmm. And it gave me an insight to different kinds of people. I got subjected to more personality types and more, shapes and sizes and flavors of people, for lack of a better description. And so maybe that, in the long run, has helped me.
That's cool. My friend Pepe had that experience.
Yeah?
He was all over the place. You talking? You were all over Ohio, more or less, or were you
different? Yeah.
That's what he did. He was, and then he'd even come back to some of the schools. Did you do that?
I did
come back.
I returned to one, and
they just remember him enough. And they're like, "Hey, buddy," but he'd still have to start over, kind of. And then 6th grade is when I met him, 6th or 7th, and then we became buddies. But yeah, man, that's rough, but it's character building, I'm sure.
Yeah. I can remember many scary moments of class. We have a new student. His name's Jimmy Martin. Say hi, and I'm trembling in front of the class.
Yeah, that's rough. Plus, I know you well enough to know that you probably have always been somewhat of an introvert. And it's not like you're like, "Hi guys, I'm Jimmy." Like who the hell is like that? Not many people.
Right.
But I remember meeting the people that were a little bit more like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they always just by default were bullies. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're probably really nice. I know a lot of them now and they're good people, but at the time, I swear, if you were a big extrovert in high school, you ended up either like a bully or a gossip or something that wasn't great. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and I was more of the outcast, and all my friends were that. Mm-hmm. That makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah,
now.
Me too.
Yeah. But did you have a favorite school? Was there one school that was like, these guys really get me immediately, or was it all just hard work to get in?
I think my middle school and high school years were the best because, I found a good medium where I was friends with the burnouts, and I'm making quote marks with my fingers, and I was friends with the jocks, more quote marks. Mm-hmm. So I was able to find a little happy medium class and status valley to live in, and I felt like I was well liked. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel hated. I didn't feel pushed aside. I didn't feel like a nerd. So I guess that would be the best school system.
So who'd you like better? You say the burnouts and jocks. Was it one of those schools where they were buddies and they weren't like enemies?
Yeah, there was some crossover.
That's good. Uh-huh. I've heard of that too, actually. I think East Palestine School had cliques in my class. And then Pepe was like, Columbiana has no cliques, man. He's like, they're all friends. Like, they're crossover plenty. Mm-hmm. And it's all good. And I was like, I can't imagine that. I think I had a weird, even class to class, I found out later that my class was really weird. Like, the people I know who are 1 year older, 1 year younger, they're like, my class wasn't like that, man. You just had a weird class. And I like all the people now that I see, and I see them at shows or I see them here and there. But at the time, man, it was very, very discriminated. Like, it was insane. Huh. It was big time. Like, this is football, and that's football only. If you're in the band and you play football, you're weird. That kind of... And then the people that tried to be crossovers, they were okay, but they oftentimes ended up like, well, this guy's the little crony to this group. He was you can walk behind us in the hallway, but you can't hang out with it. Like, ridiculous things happen. I don't know why my class was like that. Small town sometimes just happens that way, I guess.
I had a cool guy friend, and I used to get so upset when he would be my best buddy after school, but at school, like, I was just like, he didn't know me. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you did see some of that here.
Some of that,
of course you did, if you've seen so many schools. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That makes sense, man. Well, what would you say overall was your best experience? Like, you don't regret being pulled out of Catholic and going... I assume all these others are public, right? Mm-hmm. Do you like public school? Are you happy you were through that system, or were you like, man, if I would have stayed in the Catholic in the school, maybe something would have been different? Or?
I have one regret, and that is that my timeline, my sense of history is not even there. I mean, it's really bad. Like, I couldn't tell you if the Magna Carta came first, or Columbus discovering America, or because you go from one school system to the next, and one fourth grade class might be on one era in the social studies or history textbook, and then mom pulls me out. We get acclimated to a new school system, and in that social studies or history class, they're doing something that happened actually before. Just happens to be where that class is. So I didn't have any timeline of history, and I think now, late in life, that it's really important to know where you come from and know your historic context in terms like your nationality and the history of America and all that.
Yeah. So you're like, I'm not very good either, but are you? So someone's like, if someone's talking to you about just history, you're like, well, yeah, after Reagan was elected president, they invented the wheel, and like, and they're like, that's not right. You're like, what? And they're like, no, the wheel came before Reagan. You're like, public school. They just go.
It's too bad they didn't have some kind of a system to keep tabs on where you left off at.
I know. It's like that all everywhere, even with when people, you hear plenty of people complaining, I transferred from college to this other college, my credits didn't count, they taught me a completely different thing. It does show you that it's all relative, that everything's like, well, half the thing that you're learning is the teacher's personality, especially, and all my teachers were pretty awesome, but especially history, English, art, science even, and you're just learning the teacher's opinion and personality a lot of the time. I mean, you're getting the facts, but I don't know. I know that half the time when I've really liked subjects is because the teacher just happened to be a cool person.
Yes.
Like I had a Shakespeare teacher. I don't really think of myself as a Shakespeare person, but he was just so good. It was in college. He was so good that it was all. And he pushed hard. We memorized whole scenes by ourselves and recited them. And you just had to like it, man. You were like, we're in, man. We're in the world. Difference. Yeah. We're just in the world. He was cool.
I think the education system should be set up like the current medical record system is now, where like if you're in Portland and you get a CAT scan for some condition and then you come back home to Ohio, you see a doctor, they can bring it up on a database and say, okay, I seen you already had a CAT scan, let's look at it. Instead of giving you a second CAT scan, why not do that with the education system where, okay, this kid came from fourth grade, first quarter or first 2 months of fourth grade, and he's just going to resume right where he left off in this new school system.
And do you think, and it's that, I know that still have kinks to be worked out because people would be like, well, we're teaching the rest of the class this, how do we teach you that? But there could be a way of at least catching you up to where they were, or giving you backstory on, just like resetting you in some way. That has your history behind it. Because you can't just walk up to a teacher as a kid and be like, I already learned this and this and this and expect anything. But if it's on a piece of paper, maybe they'll be like, okay, well, we're here. We'll back paddle to here, but we're coming up on that, or we're way past that. I'll fill you in on the backstory. We made it way past what you learned, and that'd be cool. More one-on-one time with teacher-student is obviously an issue.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that if you didn't want to be teaching, you wouldn't be, especially with the salary. So that tends to, for me, to mean that the teachers must kind of have a little bit of a passion for what they do. So I hope that maybe as years go by in the U.S. that I'm not saying keep their salaries low so we know who wants it. You want the salaries up. But I think as we go, just like musicians in Ohio, the ones that really want to be in it are just in it regardless of the money, I think. And like I think it's a testament for most people in any field that they're just there and they're like, as long as I'm making my rent and I'm doing stuff, I'm going to do it, Because I met a lot of teachers that really, they cared about the subject they taught, and they were definitely just totally in the minority. They're just, I was like, you were the outcast in high school. You you were, those guys and stuff. So I think that's pretty interesting. Let me see what time we got. Oh, not too bad. Is there anything you wanted to like plug or tell anybody about as far as upcoming things? I know you got a few shows that are not even on my radar as far as I don't know when this podcast will be out, but you got an April show too, right? Or
not until May 3rd.
May 3rd.
Susie's Dogs and Drafts in Youngstown is actually letting us do a fundraiser. My wife and I are adopting.
Okay.
We're like a little over halfway through the process. And we were told that it was going to cost anywhere from $17,000 to $24,000. So we don't have that kind of chunk of change. So we're looking to different venues avenues to fundraise. And I'm using the podcast for once and only once to call in favors. So I got 4 bands actually to play. And we're going to have like a craft vendor fair, maybe a beer tasting, Spirit of the Bear, Northern Whale, Resonaut, the Bullet Patrol from Cleveland, Bullet Party, the Bullet Party, and Baroque Monody, which, as you know, I think is made up of Rick Polo and Jen from the Raw Alternative.
Yeah,
That's
I
their
like
band.
Baroque Monody, especially on recording. It's weird. I really like their recording style. It sounds real, like the band album. They like live, they're heavy, but then on the recording they got like this papery, like garagey.
Technical. And
I like it.
Yeah.
The wheel of fate shall turn, and foolish man will yearn for pain to fade away. A woman halts the wheel, on his knees man will kneel. Thus begins the ancient war.
Okay, so that's May 3rd, Susie's Dogs and Drafts.
100 episodes on May 16th, same venue.
May 16th celebrates Jimmy Fro Indie Music Show 100th episode. Also same venue, Susie's Dog and Drafts. And then we said this at the beginning, but May 23rd, that celebrates Speaking of Music Lunch, which you're going to be co-host with who?
It's going to be Rick from the Raw Alternative and Joe Sinkovich from Supporting the Local Music.
Okay.
And Josh Roman will be chiming in and doing all the producing.
Nice. And Raw Alternative, they've done an article or two on us. They're cool, and they do. Do they have a podcast now as well as the article writing, or is that going to be their first time?
They're just going to be like an affiliate of the Speaking of Music podcast.
Right.
It's like sort of an amalgam of different parties, different support groups. But no, they don't have a podcast as the Raw Alternative.
Okay. And then is Jimmy Fro going to continue, or are you spinning off? Are you done with Jimmy Fro?
I'm not done with it. I'm going to be less aggressive.
Okay.
Chasing down bands. If someone calls me and they want to do a listening, the big thing I like to do now is do a listening session where when you got a new record, bring it to my home. I have a really nice stereo. We'll listen to it and we'll talk in between tracks. But I'm not going to be as aggressive in calling and scheduling. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why we launched Speaking of Music is because we needed more voices, more diversity. And I don't think I have a strong enough personality to really anchor a podcast or any type of a program. So I'd rather just be like a slice of something and be more appealing and make my time more worthwhile.
Okay, and that makes sense because you've had me and Jack and Pepe on as Third Class on your podcast a handful of times, and it always seemed like in our last like 20 minutes of it, we'd all loosen up and it'd really get fun and really, really hilarious and stuff. And it doesn't have to be funny to be good, but it always got at least loose.
Yes.
But I always looked at you as now that if you have this other guy to bounce off of every time you do a podcast, that you're really going to become like. Maybe I don't want to put pressure on you, but I feel like you'll be like the really good, like the quippy guy. If you have something to wordplay off of someone else.
Okay.
I don't know what the other guy's going to be like, but I imagine I can call right now. He's the straight guy, and you're the.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you basically bouncing off of us. You were already like you with the Syphil and Ollie sense of humor and stuff like that. I think that it would be fun. I'm not talking comedy bang bang. I'm not talking like pressure to be funny. I just like the little things that pop in, like that, stuff like that. That's how I feel about my brother Jack. He's good with stuff like that, and it's because he shuts up until somebody else gives him something to be reactionary about,
right?
You know.
Yes.
So I like that.
You need that chemistry.
Yeah. You might. I imagine that's how you'll be with the other guy. You'll still have your stuff you bring to the table on your own, but if you, like you said, if you're a slice in some other part.
Yeah.
You know.
There's going to be 3 of us, and then Josh is going to be like the father who's listening, and like hopefully we're pushing him to do this, where he's going to come over the mic and say, guys, actually, Faith No More recorded 2 albums in '91. And he'll just drop out, after he corrects us.
He'll correct you in the middle of the real podcast.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. That's awesome, man. Well, yeah, guys, so go check out the Jimmy Fro podcast. You can find that on iTunes, Stitcher, all over the place.
Podomatic.
Keep an eye out for Speaking of Music podcast coming later in 2015. And yeah, go thirdclass.net or jimmyfro.com, is it still?
It sure is.
Okay, to just see some dates, some fun things, just at Ohio Education. Even if you're just a random person who just was on SoundCloud and press play because of a tag and you're like, who are these idiots? Just go find some stuff, man. Ohio's interesting. It's just a full, big, melting pot of crazy creative people.
Yes, indeed.
Because there's not that much to do here, so we got to get creative.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, will you say bye to my mom? Well, our little tagline outro is, "Look, Mom, we're on a podcast."
We're at a podcast?
We're on a podcast.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I got to just say that?
Yeah, to say that.
Look, Mom, we're on a podcast.
And is there anything you'd like to say to my mom in particular?
Lee's mom, you did a good job. He's a gentleman and a scholar as far as he knows.
All right, guys. Thanks. This podcast is sponsored by the Orange Avocado Alternative Bakery, specializing in vegan, gluten-free treats made with organic and raw materials.
Don't eat any more food in your room, Mother said. You'll get more bugs. They depend on people like you. Otherwise, they would starve. But who do you want to make happy? Your mother or a bunch of ants? What have they done for you? Nothing. They have no feelings. They'll eat your candy, yet you treat them better than you treat me. You keep feeding them, but you never offer me anything.